Okay, so we are solving radical equations. This is the last notes for this unit. So we have the steps here. Just to remind us, isolate the radical, so on and so forth. So these are here for us. We do have a tiny bit of factoring this unit. So I just want to remind you, the snowflake, remember A times C goes in top, B goes in bottom, AX, AX. And remember, what multiplies to give you A times C and adds to give you B is what goes here and here. So that's just kind of a refresher. Okay, so we're going to kind of go through the rules as we do number 1. So I want you to realize my radical is this square root of x minus 1. And it says to isolate it. Is it currently isolated? No. What's on the same side of the equal sign as it? The x. How do I move that x? Subtract. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And I get the square root of x minus 1 equals 3 minus x. Now, my radical is isolated, so now I need to make the radical go away. How do I make a square root go away?
Multiply by 2.
No. What's the opposite of square root? Square. So I'm going to square both sides. Now, when I square a square root, it cancels the square root. I'm left with x minus 1. Now, this is a binomial, so I need to double distribute. I need to write it twice and double distribute. So I'm going to come over here and do that. 3 minus x, 3 minus x. What's 3 times 3? 3 times negative x? Negative 3x. Negative x times 3? Negative 3x. And negative x times negative x? Positive x squared. Okay, our middle two terms are alike, so those will combine and give us negative 6x. Now, I'm going to put it in order when I write it over here. What should go first? The x squared minus 6x, and that's a positive 9. Now, since I have something squared, to solve, remember we have to set it equal to 0 and factor. So I need to get both of these terms on this side. So I'm going to do minus x, which zeroes out. And I'm also going to add 1. I lined them up with their like term. And my left side now equals 0. I'm left with x squared. What's negative 6x minus x? Negative 7x. And 9 plus 1. 10. Sorry, I'll slow down. Any questions about what I've done so far? Okay, what's that? Huh? This? Is this. I just simplified the middle two and I flipped it to put it in order. See how it's x squared minus 6x plus 9? X squared minus 6x plus 9. So it's the same thing, I just rewrote it in order. Okay, and then we moved this x by subtracting on both sides, and we added 1 to both sides to get this left side to equal 0. And that's where I'm at right now.
So you want the left side equal to 0?
Either side, there was just more terms on the right, so I'm not going to move a bunch of terms. It was just simpler. Okay, so I need to factor this now. So I have a, b, and c. What does a equal? 1. What's b equal? And what does c equal? So we talked about how a times c goes on top, so 1 times 10 is 10, and b is negative 7. A is 1, so 1x, 1x. What multiplies to give me positive 10 but adds to give me negative 7? Negative 5 and negative 2. So knowing that, these are my two factors because 1 over 5 and 1 over 2 do not simplify. So once you get your two factors, you set them equal to 0 and you solve. So x minus 5 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. So how do I solve this for x?
That's fine.
I get x equals 5. Here I'm going to do plus 2 plus 2. X equals 2. Now, we are not done. I am going to let y'all use these calculators on our test. But what do I grade? Work. So you still have to show all your work. Okay, so what I want you to realize is you have to check your work on these. Because sometimes one of them actually doesn't work. Or both of them. So you have to plug them into the original. So here it's x plus the square root of x minus 1. Well, x is 5. So 5 plus the square root of 5 minus 1 should equal 3, correct? Does it? No. Therefore, x minus 5, or x equals 5 is actually not one of my solutions. So now let's try the x equals 2. Oop, why did I do that? So I'm going to do 2 plus the square root of 2 minus 1, and this should equal 3. Did it work? Yes, so this is one of my solutions.
It's a lot of work for one simple answer.
Is what it is. Not all of them will have that much work. So now let's look at example 2. Okay.
So, how do you think the negative 3x, negative 3x divided by negative 6?
By double distributing. Because I had to do 3 minus x squared, which means twice.
How did you get it negative 6 only on the left side?
Because these two are like terms,
So they cancel?
so they combine. They do not cancel.
Right, so it's the negative 6. What about the one on the bottom? Negative 6.
The negative 7?
No, negative 6, the same over there. What did you do?
That's just me combining these two.
Oh, what's it?
I just simplified the middle two. No, it's not a fraction, y'all. This is just me simplifying these two without rewriting the whole thing. Okay, so this one, is my radical alone? Yes, so what do I need to do to cancel that cube root? I have to give it to the third power. I need to cube both sides. So I'm going to cube this side and this side. So the cube root and the cube cancel, and I'm left with 4x minus 1 equals, what's 3 cubed? Now, is there an x squared? No, so guess what? There's no factoring. All we're going to do is solve for x. How do I solve for x?
Subtract 1 and then divide by 4.
Not subtract 1.
Add 1.
Add 1 to both sides. And I get 4x equals 28. Now what?
Divide it by
And I get x equals 7. Now, before we say it's an answer, what do we have to do? Check. So on these calculators, you hit math, and you go down to the cube root. So we're going to do 4 times 7 minus 1, and what should it equal? 3. Did it work? Yes. So that is my solution.
How would we do that if we ever have one of those graphic calculators?
You won't. There's a calculator on the thing, or if you have a calculator, if you have one of the regular ones like I talked about, you can do cube root on those too.
You can show us how to do it.
It depends on what kind of calculator you have. Send me a picture of it and remind. Can't be on your phone for a test. Okay, on this one, can you technically isolate each radical? No, because there's technically 3 of them and I only have 1 equal sign. So this is about as isolated as it's going to get. So we're going to go ahead and just square both sides. Okay, so the square root cancels the squared, and I get x minus 6 equals, well, this side, because there's a minus in the middle, and it's not under the house, I have to double distribute. This is 2 terms. Well, yes, this is 2 terms, but they're both under the house. Do y'all see the difference? Okay, so that means I need to write it twice. And double distribute. So what's the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? I always like to write it, isn't it the square root of 2 twice? Or you could do the square root of 4. Those are equal. Okay, now this times this, well, first off, it's a positive times a negative, which is a negative. And they both are a square root, so I can multiply them. What's 2 times x? It's just 2x. And since they were both under the house, they both stay under the house. Now here's a negative times a positive, so again it's going to be minus. X, square root of x times the square root of 2, so again I get the square root of 2x. And then I have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. Square root of x times x, which is x squared. Any questions with how I got that? Okay, so when simplifying, I know square roots cancel squareds. So I end up getting 2, and over here I end up getting a plus x. Now, aren't these like terms? If I take one and I take another, didn't I take 2? Technically, you can put a 1 in front if you need to. They do not cancel each other out because they are both negative. Are you confused from here to here? Well, if I take a square root of 2x and I take another square root of 2x, I took 2 square root of 2x. Huh? Because if I took one and I took another one, I took 2.
So you can't combine them under a house?
No. When you're adding or subtracting, you treat your radical almost like a variable. It just stays the same, and they have to be the same.
Unless it's multiplying or dividing?
Multiplying and dividing can be simplified.
Okay.
Same with variables. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over here because this cannot simplify any further. And I see that I have some things. Now, I know that I still have a radical. Don't I need to get that radical alone? Don't I need to isolate it? Wasn't that our first rule? So I need to isolate the radical that I still have. So what do I need to move?
The x and the 2.
So I'm going to move this x first. Doesn't matter if you move the 2 first, you'll get the same thing. What happens to both of those?
Wait, isn't there a 2x in the house?
Not in the house. Oh, yes, in the house, yes. Thank you. Okay. What happens to both of those x's? They both cancel. So what else do I need to move?
Subtract 2.
This 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I get negative 8 equals negative 2 root 2x. Now, what do I still have to get rid of?
Wait. 2?
Yeah, that negative 2. How do I get rid of that?
Divide by negative 2?
Divide both sides by negative 2. Because there's no plus or minus in the middle, that means this is multiplying. The opposite of multiplication is division. So those cancel. What's negative 8 divided by negative 2? Positive 4. How do I simplify this now?
Square.
Square both sides.
Yes.
What's 4 squared?
16.
So I end up getting 2x because the square root cancels the squared equals 16. Divide both sides by 2 and I get x equals 8. Now, am I done?
Now you have to check to see if it works.
I have to make sure it works. So I'm going to plug it into the original.
How do we
8 minus 6, so that's the first one. And I get this ugly decimal, which is fine. As long as this also gives me that. Does it give me the same one? It's negative, but is it the same? Would you rather have a positive $1.41 or a negative $1.41? Positive, because it's different. So these are not the same. So what do you think that means?
Non-real.
This doesn't work, so there is no solution. All I did was type them both in the calculator and replace x with 8. And as long as they're equal, which they're close, but this one is positive and that one's negative, so they're not equal. Now, if they were both positive 1.41, whatever, we would have said, yes, that's our solution. Okay? Okay, we have one more ugly one, and then we have a simple one, and then we're done. What do you think we have to do here? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and square both sides. Okay? So when I go to both sides and I square them, well, I cancel that outside square root. And I cancel this square root.
Oh my gosh.
But I still have another one. Now, I just showed you how to get radicals alone. We would divide by 2, right? But wouldn't that leave me with a fraction over here?
Yes, but then
Do y'all really want to square a fraction? Like double distribute with a fraction? I don't, and I'm sure you don't. But because there's no plus or minus over here, this is technically multiplying. Okay? So I can just square the whole thing. What's 2 squared?
4.
Times square root cancels the square, and I get 7x plus 2. And over here, I have to double distribute. Three times 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 2 is positive 6x. 2 times 3x is positive 6x. And 2 times 2 is 4. These middle two terms should almost always be alike. So that gives me positive 12x. So I get 9x squared plus 12x plus 4.
Now we divide by 4.
I wouldn't. I would just distribute it in. So I get 28x plus 8. Now here's my question. Since I have something squared, what do I have to do?
Get it alone.
Set it equal to 0. Because I'm going to have to factor. So what do I need to do to get this set equal to 0?
Subtract 8 and subtract 1.
Subtract 8 from both sides, so I'm going to line it up with their like terms. That cancels. And subtract 28x from its like term. Now I've canceled everything on the left, so what does the left side of the equal sign equal? 0. 9x squared had no like term, so I'm just going to bring it down. What's 12 minus 18?
Negative 16.
Negative 16, don't forget our x, and 4 minus 8.
Negative 4.
Now what am I going to do? Huh? Snowflake. What does A equal?
9.
B
Negative 15.
and C.
Negative 4.
A times C goes on top. What's 9 times negative 4? And B is negative 16. A is 9, so we have 9x, 9x. What multiplies to give me 36 but adds to give me negative 16? So start with 1. Now I'm technically going to be subtracting here because I have a negative on top, so that means a negative times a positive gives me a negative, right? So 36 divided by 1, well, that gives me 1 and 36. 1 minus 36 is never going to give me negative 16. Does 2 go into 36?
Yes.
18 times. So 2 minus 18. Did that work?
Yep.
So it's going to be a positive 2 and a negative 18. Now, 9 over 2 does not simplify, so that is one of my factors. But what happens here? Can't that simplify? What goes into 9 and 18? 9. So when I divide by 9, I get x over negative 2, which gives me x minus 2 equals 0. Now what do I need to do? Solve. So this one's easy. Add 2 to both sides, and I get x equals 2. What do I do on this one, though? Subtract 2, and I get 9x equals negative 2. Now what? Divide by 9, and I get x equals negative 2 ninths. Am I done?
Nope.
What do I still need to do? Check it. Okay, so this one's ugly.
Oh my god. It's gonna take a while.
7. Now, I'm just going to put this in parentheses as division, which is the same thing as a fraction. So it's not too bad. And I get this ugly decimal, which is fine. And then I'm going to do the other side. Are they equal?
I can't tell.
Yes, so that is one of my solutions.
Yay.
Now let's test the other one. I don't know why I keep doing that. Are they also equal? So this one has how many solutions? 2. Okay, let's look at the last one. This one's easier. What's that?
I don't know why I keep getting kicked out.
I have no
I
idea.
came outside to see if it was better, but it still kicked me out randomly.
I don't know what's happening. I'm not doing it. Okay, last one. I need to get my radical alone. So what do I need to do? Subtract 5 from both sides. So I get the radical of 2x plus 3 equals negative 5. Now what? Not multiply by 2. Square it. Okay, so we're going to square both sides. Square root cancels my squared, and I'm left with 2x plus 3 equals, what's negative 5 squared? Positive 25. Why positive and not a negative? A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, now what do I do? Do I need to snowflake on this one? No, why not? There's no x squared. There's just x. Okay, so what do I need to do? Subtract 3 from both sides. And I get 2x equals what? Now what? And what do I get?
11.
Am I done?
Nope, gotta check it.
Gotta check it. So square root of 2 times 11 plus 3. To come out from under the house, you just hit the right arrow. Does it equal 0?
Now it equals 10.
So therefore, what's my solution here?